Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Defion Productions podcast. I'm your host, the hardest working nobody in Bitcoin, Don, alongside Troy, the hardest working nobody in crypto. We got a lot to talk about on episode number 79 today, the only live stream Bitcoin and crypto podcast in the Western New York area. Trump tariffs, the news all over it. Markets, red, blood in the streets. Let's jump right into the charts so we can take a look at what's happening in the crypto markets first. We have a Bitcoin price of 82,077.37. We did have Bitcoin hit about 87,000 early yesterday, so we're down about 5K in the last 24 hours. We're down exactly 4.99% in the last 24 hours. Ethereum 1786.92. We have XRP at $2.04, BNB at $588.52, Solana $115.07. The total crypto market cap at the present moment down 4.9% as a whole at 2.63 trillion. Fear and Greed Index at 24. Lot of blood. If you look down this chart, it's red everywhere except for Tron. Tron's up 0.77. Everything else is red. Why is Tron up 0.77? That's odd. But everything else is red. 10%, 12%, 16%, 19%, 17%, 18%, 13%. Solana down 17. BNB down 7.96. XRP down 13. Ethereum down 10. Bitcoin down 5.89. Wild stuff. Let's take a look somewhere that we normally don't usually take a look at. Let's go over to stocks. Take a look at what's going on in the stock market because there's a lot of blood over there as well. Dow Jones down 3.35% today, down 1,414 points. The S&P 500, which when we refer to the market, is down 4.16%, 235 points, and the NASDAQ is getting obliterated, leading the bloodbath, down 909 points, down 5.17%. Let's talk about why this is all happening. Trump tariffs, man. Yesterday, Liberation Day, in Trump's words. He put tariffs on 60 countries. Let's take a look at... we can go to this chart here. You got China leading the way at 67%, the European Union 39%, Vietnam 90%, Taiwan 64%, Japan 46%, South Korea 50%, Thailand 72%, Switzerland 61%, United Kingdom 10%, Cambodia getting crushed at 97%, Pakistan 58%, the Philippines 34%. Over on this other side, Madagascar. I'm sorry. I'm reading the one that's us. That's what they do to us. Oh, those are the tariffs charged to us. China's 34%. I apologize. So China's 34%. Why is Madagascar charging us 93%? That's wild. But you can see that, Trump has enacted tariffs, multiple countries, 60 across the board. Every country got some yesterday, basically except Russia. And markets reacted violently.
Well, Don, let me ask you this, the first set of questions.
Yeah.
And this was something I thought this was a short-term negotiation tactic. Has your mindset changed? Do you think this is part of a longer-term strategy and not just so much of the shorter-term leverage to force trade deals? Because that's kind of where my mindset is shifting towards is, more towards American economic sovereignty. So I don't think this was really a short-term thing. I think this was more of a longer-term outlook on how he's approaching this.
Here's the problem. He's trying to lower interest rates. So the interest on our debt is less. That's what he ultimately, I think, is trying to do. And in rates dropped. They've dropped. I think the 10-year dropped like almost 0.2% just today, based on all this. So he's getting some of that to happen. The problem is you have people, specifically the MAGA base that supports him, believing that tariffing all these countries, charging others what they charge us or more is like a good thing, and that's like America first, and that's what we should be doing. And unfortunately, that speaks to the financial illiteracy and the misunderstanding of economics of your average American, not realizing that that is not how our economy works in any way, stretch, or form or means. Um, we have the world reserve currency in the United States dollar. Our system is a debt-based system. Debt-based system of the world reserve currency requires exporting of dollars. One of the best ways that you export dollars is through trade deficits. When you tariff your trade partners and you lessen the trade deficit, you're lessening the amount of dollars you're exporting, which in essence will make your economy grind to a halt, which when the economy grinds to a halt and goes into a recession, it increases inflation. When you increase inflation, you print money. When you print money, it goes all the way back in a circle again. So what he's doing is, and it's crazy because even like the average American that has no idea how the economy actually works, a lot of economists this whole time have been mixed on if they believe that this is a good thing or a bad thing. But what we do know is that trade deficits are very important when it comes to managing the world reserve currency, which is what the United States has. So eliminating trade deficits is not going to be a thing. That's not what we're going to do. So the people that are like championing that or rooting for that or thinking that that's going to be the outcome of this are sadly mistaken, because that's not how things work. We are not going to have a trade deficit that's completely eliminated. The only way that happens, which I don't believe is Trump's goal in any way, shape, stretch, or form. I don't think it's part of his formula. But if it was, this would make sense if Trump's goal was to supplant or dethrone the United States dollar from being the world reserve currency. If that's ultimately what he's trying to do, which I don't believe he is at this point, but if that was his ultimate goal, this would make a lot of sense. This would make a lot of sense if he was trying to say, you know what, we don't want the dollar to be you don't want the United States dollar to be the world reserve currency anymore. We want to get off that. We want to, let the world trade whatever they want to trade. We're not going to have trade deficits anymore. We're going to worry about America first, and we're not going to be worrying about all these other countries. So we're going to take back or we're going to give away having the world reserve currency status and let everybody just fend for themselves. That's not what we're doing here. Nor has that been the rhetoric. So if you're not going to do that and have a complete, total global economic reset, then all this is doing is decimating markets for a while and making it very hard for people to figure out where do you like. There's nowhere to park money right now. Like I haven't looked today, but I'm going to actually look right now because I'm kind of curious of what the price of gold is and how it's reacting today. Yeah, gold's down. Gold's down 1% today too. I mean, not as bad as other areas, but gold is also down. So like, there's nothing right now that you can invest your money in that's not down. Everything is down, and this isn't going to end tomorrow. Obviously, this probably doesn't even end in the next month. So people are going to be fleeing risk off assets, and they're going to be holding cash, I guess. That's what people are going to be doing, and you're just going to continue to see the selling off for a while. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I talked a lot, Troy. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm thinking in terms of market psychology. I know where you stand, that, Trump, American first, political dominance, and you saw right through that. You saw that, this could be a hedge for chaos. This could be erratic behavior. So do you think the markets were anticipating more political dominance, America first, or policy volatility during the height of, the trade wars?
Do I say that again? Do I think that they're?
I kind of already know where you stand because we talked about it before. You're like, Trump's not good for crypto, and I believe you did say that.
I said it in July of last year when he spoke at the Bitcoin conference. Yeah. Yes.
So in terms of market psychology, or let's say like Wall Street, do you think more people, because I got caught, with my pants down because I was looking at
a lot of people have. Yeah. A lot of people have.
Especially when the second largest cryptocurrency, Ethereum, hasn't broken all-time high. it kind of throws you off because you would anticipate that, okay, once Ethereum breaks all-time highs, everything else is going to go parabolic. But what we kind of saw was the opposite of that. And now we're kind of like spiraling downwards, which I do believe we are towards the local bottom. I do believe this. And I do have 3-month outlook data to back that up. But as far as the market psychology, the average person watching this that kind of thought the same thing, like, okay, Trump's coming in office. He's building a crypto reserve. It's bullish for crypto. America first. He's going to show his strength. This is bullish. He's got alpha plays. And it kind of ended up being, the opposite of that. Do you think this was like Wall Street? Do you think Wall Street was anticipating this to happen? Or do you think,
No. No, I don't think Wall Street saw this coming, because Trump 1.0 was obsessed with the stock market. Trump 2.0 couldn't care less. And I think there's a reason, and I think we missed it. And in Trump's defense, I think it makes a lot of sense for him. Trump 1.0, he cared a lot about the stock market because to him, a booming stock market meant, he was doing great and he was successful.
And then possibly re-election.
But I think he figured out that his base, again, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. I'm not trying to be disparaging, but I'm just going to spit facts. His average MAGA base guy doesn't really give a shit about the markets. They don't. They're not even really fully allocated or invested. And again, I'm not trying to be disparaging, are not very financially literate. And I think he understands that. So to him, he put the stock market as being number one, way down his list. And he's doing all these other things to get his base excited that he made promises for, that he realized are probably going to have negative effects for the stock market. But he knows that his base doesn't care about the stock market. They just care about all this other stuff. Like I said, the America First thing, people are shouting and saying that these tariffs are America First. If you really understand what America First means, America First is exporting dollars. That's the America First agenda. We export dollars. Other countries buy our treasury notes and we bring in their products. Dollars float around the country and then they come looking for us, and it helps keep our dollar high, and we get it helps us with trade. That's America First. I understand it looks bad on paper that these countries charge us all these tariffs and we have a deficit. And when you're running your household and you're paying bills and you're when I have a deficit in my household, that's a bad thing. And it's yeah, but the government prints money. They can have a deficit because they are the money printer. It's not a big deal for them. That's why they have the trade deficit. So it's very confusing to me, as somebody who understands economies, to have these conversations with people who are yeah, we're going to eradicate the deficit, or we're going to eradicate the trade deficit, or we're going to go from 35 trillion to a surplus. It's neither of those two things are going to happen. And if they did, the consequences of those things happen. Nobody is ready, prepared, or allocated for except Bitcoiners, in my opinion.
Well, let's just dive into some more hidden layers. Are you aware of any industries that actually benefited from the tariffs?
Benefited?
The stealth winners, like steel, agriculture, trucking. Are you aware of any unintended consequences of the tariffs?
Are you talking about the tariffs that
the media is not covering, really? Yeah.
I'm aware of companies that are getting crushed by the thought of us charging these other countries tariffs. And that's basically every major company. Apple opened up 8% down the first 5 minutes the stock market was open. Amazon's having its worst day since 2022. Walmart getting pummeled. All these corporations in America, we import from all of these other countries. That's not going to stop. It's not. We don't. It's by design. That's the part that I don't. I'm having trouble understanding. I'm having trouble understanding if Trump just doesn't understand it at all. But he may not. But he has smart people around him. So they have to know that this is how everything works. So they're either just don't give a shit and they're just going to break this thing down and just see what happens, or they're going to take us to the point of getting rates down as low as we possibly can, force the Fed to blink and to start lowering rates and printing money again like we expected them to do by now already, and Powell's been very stubborn to do. That would make a little bit of sense if that's what he's going to do. I really honestly don't think this is about other countries. I think this is more about what's going on here than it is with all these other countries. I think that's all smoke and mirrors because we have to have a trade deficit. Like, we can't eliminate it. It's not, everything breaks if we eliminate the trade deficit. Like, I don't know how to make it any simpler. Like, the trade deficit is a feature of the system. It's not a bug. I want to play a video really quick. I'm gonna play this video. I'm gonna put my mic up to it so we can hear. The viewers are gonna be able to watch it. I'm gonna make it nice and big. This is, in my opinion, the greatest president in my lifetime, Ronald Reagan, speaking about tariffs, because he got pressure in the 80s to enact tariffs from Congress and even some people in his own party, and this was his reaction back then on doing so.
Those of us who lived through the Great Depression, the memory of the suffering it caused is deep and searing. And today, many economic analysts and historians argue that high tariff legislation passed back in that period, called the Smoot-Hawley Tariff, greatly deepened the Depression and prevented economic recovery. You see, at first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. The memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined, when I came to Washington, to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity. Now, it hasn't always been easy. There are those in the Congress, just as there were back in the 30s, who want to go for the quick political advantage, who risk America's prosperity for the sake of a short-term appeal to some special interest group. For those of us who live through the Great Depression.
So there's Ronald Reagan in the 1980s. I believe that was early on in his administration when we were experiencing double-digit inflation, and he was tackling the carnage from the Carter years and trying to get us back on track. And he was getting pressure to start trade wars and to enact tariffs, and that was his well thought out response on why it wasn't a good idea to do so. And I don't think Reagan was considering tariffing 60 different countries at the same time when he was dealing with that pressure. But here you have Trump unprompted tariffing everybody, basically, like en masse. So it's not like before it was like he was going to tariff Canada, he was going to tariff Mexico, China, like a couple different countries. Like, he went after everybody. So now you have like the herd of people that are being attacked by the U.S. It only takes a couple people to say, you know what, F you, like, whatever. Like, all right, you're gonna hit us with 20, we're gonna hit you with 40. You're gonna hit us with 40, we're gonna hit you with 80.
Ronald Reagan was it Japan?
What's that?
Do you know exactly Ronald Reagan's tariffs? They were targeted towards Japan, and Trump's more global partners.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Like, the difference? Do you know the difference between Trump's and Reagan's tariffs in terms of goal?
What do you mean goal? I still don't know what Trump's goal is at this point. Yeah. So no, I don't. I think the goal of what Ronald Reagan was dealing with was trying to stifle inflation, was trying to get the economy back going. He ended up pivoting to Reaganomics and the trickle down and all that stuff. Like, that came later. But his dilemma was, how do we kickstart the economy back? How do we get inflation back down to reasonable numbers? I mean, it was an era. Rich can probably speak to this, remembering it cost like 18% on a mortgage back then. It was like it was crazy. So Trump, I honestly don't know what he's trying to accomplish, because what he says he's trying to accomplish is literally the point of why we do tariffs. We want to have a trade deficit. That's what you have when you have, like, we don't have a dollar backed by gold, right? So since the 1970s, we've had a fiat currency, a debt-based economy. When you have both a debt-based economy and the world reserve currency, a trade deficit becomes necessary for your system to continue to thrive. So for him to be trying to get the deficit to be eliminated is basically him saying we're not going to be exporting dollars anymore. So if we're not exporting dollars anymore, that means that you don't want us, like, is the goal for us not to have the world reserve currency? Like, I don't understand what his goal is. All I can figure out that his goal is right now is that he is trying to, number one, appease his base, and number two, get the rates, the 10-year to come down, so when we're servicing our debt, the interest rate's going to be less. Those are the only things at this point that make any sense. What he's saying, that he's trying to eliminate the trade deficit, doesn't, to me.
But haven't we passed the point of no return financially as far as our U.S. deficit? Like, I think it's like
we're not paying. Yeah,
permanent by design. So
yeah. Oh yeah, we're not going back to a surplus. Yeah, that's not.
And I know we have the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, but that's, I mean,
it's irrelevant.
It's nothing.
It's irrelevant.
Do you think
it's irrelevant, Troy. It's an irrelevant organization.
Why do you think that?
Because when you're saving millions or hundreds of millions or $1 billion or $2 billion here or there, when you owe 36 trillion, what are we doing here, bro? Like, you're not finding anything that's in the trillions, nor are you going to. And again, here's the crazy part. Some of that stuff, while it is wasteful, is exporting dollars to other parts of the world, which is the goal. Which is why we send $100 million to Ukraine, which is why we send money to Israel. It's part of the plan. As much as we hate it and we feel like it's too much, like, that's what we do. We have the world reserve currency. We have a debt-based system that it sucks when you really. That's why I'm a Bitcoiner. That's why I get so upset, because I understand why this is what do I always say, Troy? Before you become a Bitcoiner, you have to understand the system that already exists and how it operates, because when you do, you'll get extremely upset and you'll be like, this does not make any sense. It should not be this way. It needs to be fixed, but it's not going to be fixed. So we need an alternative. So Trump's doing things that, like, we're way past the point of being able to fix. He's not going to get the deficit from 36 trillion to anything at all reasonable. So, I mean, it's already baked. I mean, let's go to this other chart real quick, Troy. I'm sorry, Rich. Where is it? Yeah. Odds of the U.S. entering a recession in 2025 rise to a new high of 47%. It's basically a coin flip that we're going to be in a recession. That's wild.
He is very unpredictable. That is wild. Who would have thought, right?
I told you last year. We had you and Matt in studio, and you guys were all excited. You were magging it up. Matt had his MAGA hat on. Everybody was excited, and I was like, pump the brakes. He is very unpredictable. I don't trust anything he says, and I'm not convinced that he's going to be a net positive. It's not going to be, I mean, again, to be fair, it's not the Biden administration who was attacking my industry. It's not that. Like, of course, I'll give him credit for that. But it's not also going to be like all butterflies and rainbows. And I was trying to sound the alarm back then, but nobody wanted to hear it. And then it made it worse when he got elected in November, that everything skyrocketed. So everybody got blinded by, we went from 60 to 100, and everybody's like, oh, it's going to be great. And it's like, yeah, here we go. We're going to 200K, 300K. It's like, bro, this dude, he does so. It's like, as much as Biden sucked and was very sleepy, there's aspects of Joe being cathartic that are a positive compared to this guy being a wild cannon. And every day you wake up not knowing what tweet or what soundbite or what press conference he's going to have that's going to nuke your bags.
Well, I'm glad we got the bad news out of the way first half of this. We got another 5 minutes before we're halfway through this. So if you guys don't follow us yet, Defion Productions on YouTube, everything's going on the bottom of this. You can see Crypto Troy Twitter handles or X handles. Give us a follow so we can keep pushing out content. So for the second half of this, I do want to go into a lighter note. Are there anything else in the next 5 minutes that you think is a net negative or something that is potentially catastrophic for our industry that we're in, or just overall economy talk?
Yeah, I think there is a possibility that crypto does not have that the top is in for crypto, not Bitcoin necessarily. I think Bitcoin can still get past, but I think crypto, your Ethereums and your Solanas and all those shit coins, I think that there is, I don't know, I don't like to throw numbers out there, but I might put it in the 25% camp if I'm just going to give you an estimate, a 25% chance that there is no top for crypto in at the end of 2025, like there typically would be, even if Bitcoin runs.
So you think just Bitcoin or like altcoins separately? Do you think Bitcoin's top is in? Do you think 25% chance Bitcoin tops in this?
No. I think there's a 25% chance the crypto top is in. I think Bitcoin, I would put Bitcoin at maybe 5.
I like those odds.
I think Bitcoin.
I'll double down on those odds. Coming from a mastermind like you.
I'm being conservative because I just until I'm shown, the reason why I'm saying it's only 25 is because until I'm proven otherwise, I'm going to say the 4-year cycle is going to play out, because I've been watching, and I'm not a chart guy at all, but I've been watching a lot of chart videos lately, and we are at very critical support for Bitcoin and the total market cap. And Bitcoin is
and the timing of where we are in the cycle is we're at a critical point. So
Bitcoin is at a very high dominance for this being this late in the cycle, very high dominance. And a lot of it has to do with the dilution of all the meme coins and all that stuff, kind of soaking up monies that would have been in altcoins that never made it there. Yeah. So there's a lot of reasons why that is, but it's the fact of the matter. So, again, I'm a Bitcoin maxi, so all the shit coins go to zero and it is what it is. But I think, and I was listening, I was getting a little frustrated today because I was listening to David Goggstein, who's like a big crypto guy, and I was listening to his spaces, and he was like all fired up that the tariffs are great. It's America first. We're resetting the system. Like he was saying, we're resetting the system with the tariffs, and I had to jump in the comments, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we're not resetting the system. Like, and then he's like saying that this is going to be great for crypto. I'm like, it's not. Like, none of this is great for crypto. Like, the crypto coins are again, I'm going to die on this hill, and I know you're the crypto guy, you're not going to like to hear it, but I think maybe this cycle you've actually seen it, so maybe it resonates with you a little bit more. Crypto is nothing different than the traditional system. There's nothing different. You got a little bit better tech, you got a little bit more like gadgets and like bells and whistles, but crypto is the traditional system on steroids. Nothing different. You got Brad Garlinghouse. You got Vitalik Buterin. You got whoever the shithead's behind Solana. You got every meme coin pump fund guy. You got Charlie Lee with Litecoin. There's all these people. The Picoin with Nicholas and the other idiot that created that. Like, you have all these puppets playing in centralized entities in these protocols and protocol changes and all this. Like, you have the traditional system with people just not as big as the government that are manipulating things. So like when you say like I'm listening to Goggstein's space and he's like, yeah, crypto's going to change the world. I'm like, it isn't changing anything. Crypto's a failure. You can clip that. You can clip that. I mean, any Bitcoin maxi will tell you that.
I would argue against that because I use crypto seamlessly. Like, it actually has changed my life as far as how I transfer value. But you can do that with Bitcoin. But I like the dApps.
Stables.
Yeah, stables. Which the government is going hard with
which is another reason for my thesis that crypto is going to be eradicated. They're going to just take Tether or USDC or whatever stable coin wins.
It's going to be on the Ethereum chain.
It doesn't matter what chain. It could be on just its own fucking chain. It doesn't really matter. Like, the chain is irrelevant, man. Those chains are all flawed chains anyways. Ethereum's chain isn't pure. There's no pure chains out there.
Ethereum's the closest one to it.
Are you kidding me? Pure?
Compared to what are the other alternatives?
Ethereum had rolled back with the DAOs. The Ethereum Classic. That's not pure.
It's more pure than Solana.
Which is the point. That's the problem. When you have the purest chain, the one that got hacked, and they had to roll the chain back and create another coin, that's your purest one. That's a problem.
Yeah. No, I luckily I got rid of some of my Solana at the high, because I remember when Trump released his token, Solana went to like 295. It happened at like 5 a.m. I'm sitting in my bed and I'm like, I got to at least skim some off here, but I still do believe in the tech long term. But that's where we have this podcast. We have our indifferences, and that's what makes us special, because we don't agree on everything. So let's transition into some more positive, lighter notes here, because there is still positives. Unfortunately, the price isn't reflecting the positive news, but hey, here we are. I do want to talk about global liquidity, but before we get into that, I want to talk about,
which I think is the only thing saving the market right now.
This one's Fidelity Investments. If you want to share your screen, basically Fidelity, which is a huge investment firm, launches a no-fee retirement plan that allows U.S. clients to invest in Bitcoin, ETH, or Litecoin. The fact that Litecoin's even in that lineup is like, okay, what the? But I mean, we can get all the positive news we want, but it's not going to reflect the price until we have that global liquidity chart, which you want to pull that up, Don? Show people the 3 month. I think it's a 10-month lead or 10-week lead. Is this the 10-week lead?
I don't know if I have it. Let me look.
It's Bitcoin versus MicroStrategy versus the global M2 liquidity. Which when we were looking at the global liquidity chart, there was a 10-week lead. So when Bitcoin was at 108,000, global liquidity was already starting to tighten. Like we were coming back. Like global liquidity was decreasing, and it estimated Bitcoin to hit around 70 to 80,000, which we did. Doesn't mean the bottom's in, but we're pretty close. Like we might get a wick shakeout. We might deviate below the support a little bit, but I still think we're still got good market structure. What I'm looking for is just the global liquidity, like the M2 10-week lead, and that gives me more of a 3-month. Yeah, it gives me more of an outlook on where we are. And based on some of the data that is proprietary, and I can't really share it on live, but the 3-month outlook for the stock market and Bitcoin, and let's see, there's the bond market, the stock market, commodities, and Bitcoin have the green light for the 3-month outlook. This is a proprietary data that I can't share. And then US dollar is actually a red US 3-month outlook. So basically, this means we're in a proper accumulation period to buy good assets at a discount. Doesn't mean go gamble. Doesn't mean go buy, shit coin or fart coin. But definitely don't let these are the times where you have to start accumulating. You don't want to deviate from your plan. Stay consistent. Still do your DCA and continue to learn. So that's really like what I'm looking at. This is the 3-month outlook. Yes, we have some volatility and some fear in the market, which I think the fear and greed index is definitely fearful. Have you looked at that today?
24. Yeah, it's at 24. Fear.
We are fearful. And, when there's fear in the market, when there's blood in the streets, you definitely want to at least dabble a little bit. Doesn't mean you have to do a lump sum investment, but at least come up with some game plan so you're positioned for when things, you said there's a 25% chance the top's in. So I'm not going to just solely, and I'm not telling anyone to solely just rely on your stat that you just put together. But if you have the data, you kind of stay balanced, like you're grounded and measured in your system, and you don't deviate from that system, because as soon as you start deviating from your plan, that's when things, you start over trading, revenge trading, or basically giving back your profit or losing more units of that token or coin that you hold. So, I mean, I want to believe we are optimistic. I think that, so you said 25% chance the top set. I would
for
I would
crypto.
probably, I would say about 17 to 20%. So I'm a little bit more bullish than you, but you've been following these tariffs a lot harder than I have. So
I mean, to talk about the hopium that you're referring to with the global M2 money supply. Global M2 money supply just made another high, upper right corner of the chart. This means that if Bitcoin continues to follow its path, it's literally following it perfectly as of right now. Then as soon as this liquidity hits
yeah,
our
can we share that?
markets,
'Cause it's not popping up.
we will see 3+ months of upside. So far, it could be more as we get updated info on the M2. Obviously, this is not a straight line, and you can see that on the chart, but the trend will continue up and to the right. Do you see the Fed pivot in May? We will see BTC dominance drop finally when monetary policy changes to trigger alt season. Time will tell, but the summer's looking like there's going to be an up and to the right. All the charting that I've been following is showing this, that because you can see that this is basically all the way out to like July, that when this liquidity hits, because it hasn't yet, but this is mapping how it's going to hit, that it's going to flow into assets. So that's going to be good for Bitcoin. That's going to be good for equities. I honestly, I think this cycle, this is why my let me dig a little deeper into why my thesis is the way that it is. I think for your smart, your smart investors and even institutional investors and maybe your smart retail, I think there's been so many times this cycle where people thought, oh, this is the time that alt season is going to happen, then it doesn't. Oh, this is the time alt season is going to happen, then it doesn't. Oh, this is the time alt season, and it doesn't. But it's like Bitcoin continues to truck along. I'm thinking that the maturity of the average investor in this ecosystem is finally starting to realize I'm going to be allocating more towards Bitcoin than I normally would be, because I keep getting burned by going 20% Bitcoin, 80% alts, or 30% Bitcoin, 70% alts. And then my Bitcoin performs well, but the 70% I have in shitcoins is burning me. So they're going to probably, I would assume, because so much of this has happened this cycle, they're going to say, you know what, let me go 70 or 80 Bitcoin and I'll take a couple shots in these shit coins with 20% of my portfolio. Maybe I'll get something, but if I don't, at least I'm going to get the gains when Bitcoin starts to move. That's what I think is starting to happen, because I think that's part of what's helping Bitcoin. Yeah, go ahead.
We've been doing this podcast for a while, and every day I have this realization that this might be one of the most toxic industries to be in. One of the most toxic and dangerous industries to be in. And there's so many mouth traps on Twitter that you have to be, especially if you're a newbie into the space, you go on Twitter and you're following these crypto chads with 3 million, 2 million followers that are calling alt season every week with a projection line of a chart. Like, you're going to get burnt. It's a trap. It's engagement farming. Stay away. And it's very toxic, this industry. And it's kind of demotivating, because it's like, it's a lose-lose some point. Like, that's why I appreciate the podcast. We could speak freely and tell people our thoughts. And we're giving people the brutal truth, the raw truth, unfiltered. But a lot of these accounts, which I would say it's more than half, maybe even more than 75%, probably 75% of the accounts aren't operating out of good faith. And this is not good for them. I just think that's why people are getting so burnt, because they're not creating a plan. They're following other people's conviction and not building their own systems. And then they're caught with their pants down. So do you feel that same way too, as time goes on, as you see like how people operate on Twitter, X, Facebook?
Well, I'm gonna bring up
engagement.
what me and you have talked offline about. Like, you followed the Bankless podcast for 2 years, and those guys are huge ETH bulls, or whatever you want to call it. Like, they're big on ETH, and that's a perfect example of a podcast with a large following who refuses to change their thesis even when all the information is pointing to something different. Like the one guy, I forget, I don't know their names. You know their names. I can't remember, but
Sean Adams,
one, that's the guy, that one. Like every day he's like trying to like tweet into the ethos, the ETH price to go up. Like he's always the other guy, the Sean guy, I think he's like tweeting every day, like why Bitcoin or why if Ethereum is gonna go 10x or Bitcoin. Like if you're not in Ethereum bull, like you're doing it wrong. It's like every day he's got to like tweet into the ethos, like how great of an asset ETH is. And it's like people in the comments are like, bro, like what are you talking about? Like this coin is underperforming. If it didn't establish itself as the second biggest crypto early on, it might be dead. Honestly, like it might not even exist.
Don, truthfully. So I think you're thinking of David Hoffman. So Ryan Sean Adams they're two co-hosts. Yeah. Ryan Sean Adams has been logged off since the beginning of the year. He says he's doing a reset or something. We'll be back when Ethereum's at 10K. So he hasn't been posting in the last 3 months.
It was him. It was him. He was doing it. He was doing it at the end of last year because this was a couple months ago.
Oh, he was doing it all 2024.
Yeah, it was him.
2023 and 2022.
Yeah, it was him.
And then he signed off at the beginning of the year and said we'll be back when Ethereum's at 10K, and that's not consistency. David Hoffman's still around tweeting and stuff, but they're over. Like, what is conviction nowadays? Like, honestly, screw conviction. There's no such thing as conviction because things change. Black swan events happen.
You're misunderstanding.
New plan.
You're not. You're misunderstanding. I mean, maybe I'm using the wrong terminology. Conviction is fine when you've done the correct research and you have come to the correct thesis. Then conviction is fine. The problem with the Ethereum conviction, quote unquote, is that you're relying on the same problems and the same bugs that exist in the traditional system that Bitcoin was created for us to opt out against. So there was always going to be exposing of all of these altcoins at some point in time failing in one way or another, whether it's Solana being down, whether it's Ethereum changing its mind on proof of stake, proof of work, or rolling back their chain, or some other chain deciding to do something. Like, it was always inevitable. It wasn't all going to happen all at once. It wasn't all going to happen quickly, but you're investing and you're putting your dollars into things where you have to have trust. That's why we say don't trust, verify, because Bitcoin is the only one where if you do the research, you do the work, and you study, that you recognize it's the only one that's going up and to the right. Everything else is not. It might today. It might in the short term. It did last cycle. Again, we still might get a pump in some new all-time highs in some of these coins this cycle. But if you're thinking longer term and you're talking about conviction, you can't have conviction. And it's even worse when people are having conviction. I listen to some of these spaces and people are talking about projects and meme coins like there's something special. Like people are hodling meme coins. Like I don't even understand that. Like that ideology is retarded. Like it's like Down syndrome shit. Like, what are you talking about? How do you hodl a meme coin? I don't get, it's pathetic. It's just absolutely pathetic. I probably offended 7 people by saying all that, but it's like, it makes absolutely no sense. So like when you're talking about conviction, if you're in this ecosystem, the only thing you can have conviction about is Bitcoin. Everything else is eventually going to zero. And maybe not the actual number 0, but it's going in the opposite direction. It's going towards 0 against Bitcoin because Bitcoin is different than everything else. It's got its immaculate conception. It doesn't have an active founder. It's got permissionless protocol. It's got all the scarcity, all the stuff that we, ad nauseum talk about. But to sit here and say that you're...
Who's the CEO of Bitcoin again?
There isn't. There is no CEO.
I've been asked that question before.
Yeah. Who's the CEO of Ethereum? Who's the CEO of Ripple Labs? Who's the CEO of Cardano? Like you can say all those names. You can say Vitalik Buterin. You can say Brad Garlinghouse. You can say Charles Hoskinson. So when you have conviction in these it's like it's better to be allocated in Apple, because if something happens to Tim Cook, they're just going to replace him, right? When you're not replacing Brad Garlinghouse, you're not replacing Charles Hoskinson. He's going down with the ship. Somebody's not stepping in for Charles with Ada. If Charles Hoskinson finds out that he's a pedophile, like, nobody's coming in and stepping in as the role of the Cardano founder. Like, you're cooked, right? You have all of your bags based on him. Same thing with like Vitalik. Same thing with Brad Garlinghouse. Like, you're putting your eggs into these. You have to trust these people to be good actors, and you have to trust these projects to be. I hate even saying projects, but these coins to be something that they're not. And it's sad that we're 4 cycles in, 16 years into this, and people are still like bowing at the altar of these cults of these coins, and still refuse to bend the knee and just be Bitcoin maxis.
Don, I'm very, very impressed with you. You must be on a high right now, because you did call it from the beginning. Like, seriously, it's like not even 2 years ago. You've been calling this for the last 10 years, or for as long as you've been in this industry for. So, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was not expecting this in 2025, or at least like the fact that Ethereum, the second largest crypto, is down below $2,000 when this thing was at 4,000, and the bear market, pretty much, not the bear market, but like the tail end of it, like
17, it's in the 17s right now, buddy. Like,
it's mind-boggling. It really is. So it makes me look inward and think, wow, like, but that's the thing with a lot of these podcasters that their ideology is Ethereum only and Ethereum forever. There's no deviating from the path. And luckily, I have a very adaptive mindset. And luckily, I have you as a great co-host that's strictly Bitcoin only. There's no second best. I have been accumulating a little bit more Bitcoin than I usually do. And moving forward, I am currently only buying Bitcoin while we are mean reverting in this market. And then until my systems say, okay, you have the green light, you could long, or you could enter in this coin. Right now, I don't feel comfortable accumulating shit coins. I had more conviction accumulating shit coins in the bear market. But now it's like, I just want to hold Bitcoin unless I have a confirmed green light. Like, I'm just going to hold what I have, and then I'll enter on those plays when the time's right. But yeah, you did shift my mindset a lot. And I honestly kind of wish I listened to you more and held more Bitcoin going into this.
You want to know the scary, just dead truth?
Let's hear it. Let's hear the cold hard truth.
Crypto has not had a bull run outside of XRP, BNB, and Solana. The rest of the market, outside of anything that's been created as a meme coin or in the last, year or two, but anything that has any, that was around last cycle, has not experienced a bull run. You've had four coins experience a bull run. In Solana, right? Solana, who's been the best performing coin, has only, as of right now, done a 10x. Mm. That's the best right now. Solana at a 10x. BNB is under its all-time high. XRP is last cycle I think it was $1, so it's a 2x right now. Everything else down underneath. Bitcoin from last cycle is up, 20 grand, 10, 11 grand right now. So I mean, you're talking about people that are like all this conviction. When you use that word conviction, I hear that in a lot of spaces. It's like, why and how do people in crypto have conviction? Like, I don't understand it. You're talking about, like, we started this podcast in 2022, and the price, like, I look at Chainlink, bro. Like, Chainlink is $12. Not that different of where it was when we started the podcast. Dogecoin 15 cents. Maybe it was like 6 or 7 cents. Like, these are not like bull run prices. Like, and they haven't had, like, all these other coins have not hit an all-time high.
Who would have
and
thought
again, they may not.
I said, who'd have thought I'd be more poor now than before when we started the podcast? I'm just kidding, but
Yeah, I
pretty
don't think
damn
that's
close.
true.
Yeah, we got 10 minutes left here. Do you want to dive into some other news articles we got? What's this GF? What's GFY money mean?
Go
It said
fuck yourself
there's
money.
this meme that says "Fixed it. Bitcoin is GFY money."
Can you put that up, Rich? I got it on my screen. Yeah, it's this is where you should be. Again, all this volatility. Here's the crazy part too. Like, stocks are getting obliterated. There's complete uncertainty in markets. All coins are getting blasted. NASDAQ down 5%. Gold's down a little bit. And Bitcoin is still above 80,000 right now. Above 81,000. And we dipped. There was a time not too long ago we dipped to like 77. So it's not like we haven't already dipped below that before. But we're still holding. There's still enough big money that is sitting, big smart money that's sitting in Bitcoin. Because more every day, I believe, my opinion, every day, more and more people are waking up to the fact that Bitcoin is the best place to park your money if you're looking for scarcity, if you're looking for long-term price appreciation. I think more and more people every day are waking up and realizing that. And definitely in this market, I think we're seeing that this cycle. More and more crypto people have a larger portion of their portfolio in Bitcoin than they probably ever did. That's why it's a 62% dominance, because your crypto bros, they're holding a lot of Bitcoin right now. Mm. And the ones that aren't got flushed out and they're not in the market anymore. Here's a tweet. We'll real quick. Piers Morgan. We can go back a little bit to the tariff stuff, because I think this is a good place to kind of lock in on to end this podcast, since we spent a lot of time talking about it. Piers Morgan prediction: President Trump's global tariff war is either going to be a spectacular success or a total disaster. I have no clue which. I think that sentiment is shared by a lot of people in finance that do this and study this for a living, that can't tell you one way or another how this is going to shape out. And I think that's scary. Yeah. And you're going to see volatility as a result.
What do markets hate? Uncertainty.
Yeah.
Unpredictability.
And we have what we're seeing. And we have the most unpredictable president, which is what I was trying to tell people. Which is what I was trying to tell people when everybody was so excited about their MAGA guy being president. I'm like, okay, if you invest and you like to, put your money to work in certain asset classes, it's going to be volatile. It's going to be volatile because he is very unpredictable. He went way harder with these tariffs than I thought he would go. I think he went way harder than anybody expected. I don't think there was anybody that thought he was going to go as hard with the tariffs as he has. I mean, we'll see. We're in April. Today's April 3rd, right? April 3rd today. The M2 is supposed to catch up right around May 1st. So I doubt he's going to change anything in April in regards to tariffs. So I think April is going to be very rocky. It's going to be a very, very rocky and choppy month. And you're going to see a lot of people get flushed out. And this is, again, not financial advice, but this is the time where people get really, really anxious and trade themselves out of markets. Mm-hmm. They try to make up for losses, or they try to, volatility is great for traders, but it's great for expert traders. It's not great for all traders. So if you're not careful, you can find yourself wiping out your whole portfolio on one trade. And then next thing you know, you're out of the market. May comes along and we go up, and it's a wrap.
Yeah, who'd have thought Q1 of 2025 we'd be here, but here we are. Just survives. This is where the survival of the fittest. This is where the survival of the fittest thing comes true. Trade yourself out of the market. or reap the rewards.
This is
It's
where
up to you,
holding it.
really.
This
And a
is where
lot of it,
holding.
yeah, time-based capitulation. A lot of people are impatient. They think crypto, they think flashy cars. They come in for a year, 2 years, and their expectations are met, and then they walk away. And then as soon as they walk away, the market's reversed. So have a plan and stick to it. You got to stop deviating from it. And that goes to me too. It goes to you and goes to, anyone else watching this, is have a plan and stick to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Bitcoin could still go lower. I'm not going to say it can't, but I think this is a very, very good time to accumulate. And I will say that this cycle has been a very good cycle for accumulation. We've had a lot of instances of choppiness that extended, that gave people great opportunities to add to their portfolio and to add sats to their stack. I mean, 2024 we had like a 6-month period of just chopping in that 60,000 range. You know what I mean? So I mean, we've had from the beginning of this year for 3 months, we've had choppiness in the 80s and the 90s. So I mean, we're getting lots of opportunities. It looks like on a day-to-day that there's a lot of like volatility, but it's like if you zoom out and you look at the opportunities that have been presented to us to stack sats, like it's been really good in that regard to add to your bags if you're adding to Bitcoin. But if you're adding to Ethereum and you're adding to all those other shit coins, it's been rough. Like it's been very, very rough. And a lot of those spaces I like to jump into every once in a while, those crypto, and there's a lot of anger, man. People are mad. People are angry in those crypto spaces, and rightfully so. I mean, you're getting led by influencers that are making money to just talk and say things and clip things. They're making way more money on their monetizing their accounts than they are on their trading or their buying and selling. So they can say whatever and they're going to be fine, but they're giving you shit information and you're trading off that information and you're getting hurt. So I got to be careful who you listen to.
And that's why, yeah.
You got any closing thoughts?
Completely agree. And that's why we say I just think really it's just don't trust verify. There's a lot of toxic mousetraps, grifters, scammers especially on X. And unfortunately, some of them even have millions of followers. So just, you can't rent conviction. You really do have to do the work. You really have to do the studying. You have to do the 1,000 hours. For example, Don's been doing Bitcoin probably over 10,000, maybe 20,000 hours. It has to get to that point. Understand the system you engage in and understand Bitcoin. Understand a little bit. You don't need to know like exactly how the economy works, but have some background. And if you're not fully committed to this industry, that's fine. You can buy a Bitcoin ETF. It's free to read the white paper. Doesn't cost anything. So just make this a continuing process of learning and stick to the plan. That's really my advice for the last couple minutes of this podcast. Too many people deviate when things don't work as expected, and that's God testing you that, okay, then maybe it's not your time. So just keep going. Don't stop.
To anybody watching this podcast that owns Bitcoin, you're doing the right thing. This is short-term volatility in the grand scheme of things. Zoom out, relax. If you own Bitcoin, you're good. Your family's going to be good. Don't overthink it. Don't sell it and buy some garbage coin. As we always say, ending each week. And before I do that, thanks to everybody that watched. And again, follow. All our socials are going to be below the screen. We film this live every Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as we always do each and every week, the ethos of the Bitcoin ecosystem, don't trust, verify. Thank you, guys. See you next week. Peace.
See you next week. Thank you.